All right, welcome back to the channel. So we have some interesting news. It looks like George Kambosos could be potentially announcing his fight against an opponent within Vasilylomachenko, and this is one of the biggest duck moves I have ever seen from George Kambosos Jr. if this fight is official between him and Lomachenko. I'm gonna break it down for y'all. Let's talk about it in this video. King Jr. got another video for y'all. Please sure that you make sure you like, subscribe to the channel to get all your latest boxing news. I'm going to try to keep the boxing news rolling for y'all. With that being said, George Kambosos Jr., it seems that he announced that he's going to have an opponent on June 5th. And I had to do a little bit of process and elimination here. And it seems that, according to the multiple sources, that George Kambosos Jr. could be potentially fighting former unified lightweight world champion Vasilylomachenko. This is obviously one of the dumbest moves by George Kambosos Jr. So you're going to fight a guy that Teofimo Lopez beat the man to beat the man. So you're going to beat the man and go backwards to fight a guy that Teofimo Lopez beat on a decision. And it makes absolutely no sense. This is the point that I don't get, right? Bob Arum stated that he is not very interested in George Kambosos Jr. He doesn't see George Kambosos Jr. at a bigger star, and George Kambosos Jr. is not worthy of millions and millions of dollars. So if George Kambosos Jr. is willing to fight Vasilylomachenko, Bob Arum is not going to put out a buttload of money, and it makes absolutely no sense on why George Kambosos Jr. is not going forward, but he's going backwards. George Kambosos Jr. has been changing his tune since the beginning. He stated that once he beat Teofimo Lopez, that he's going to fight Devin Haney for real undisputed, because he knows that he's not undisputed, and it's not about the money. It's about legacy. And George Kambosos Jr. started to change his tune even more when he stated that Devin Haney, you need to sell your jewelry because you're going to need a boatload of money if you want these belts. And it makes absolutely no sense why George Kambosos is doing this. George Kambosos Jr. at the end of the day has completely ducked Devin Haney. If this fight is officially happened between George Kambosos Jr. and Vasilylomachenko, this is the biggest duck I have ever seen in the lightweight division. Obviously, George Kambosos Jr. is having a fight in Australia at in a stadium, Winburn Stadium or something like that, guys. And it seems to me that George Kambosos Jr. has already made up his mind and could be potentially picking an opponent in Vasilylomachenko. And this is what causes the confusion as well. When George Kambosos Jr. posted on a social media page that he was undisputed, does it mean that you have the WBC franchise belt? This WBC franchise belt should be destroyed and burnt up because it's starting to cause a lot of confusion. So Teofimo Lopez has the used to have the franchise belt until he lost to George Kambosos Jr. So according to Mauricio Suleiman, you can't win the franchise belt or lose this franchise belt because it's a trophy. So what in the world does George Kambosos Jr., why does he have the WBC belt if Teofimo Lopez is not meant to lose the belt? This is what causes the confusion, because you got George Kambosos Jr. running around here saying he's undisputed, but he has the franchise belt. But George Kambosos Jr. is not admitting that he's franchised. But so why do you have the green belt? This is absolutely just a disgrace to the sport of boxing. George Kambosos Jr. is one of a coward of a man, and he's not willing to fight the best competition. He is looking for the biggest payday, and you're not going to get the biggest payday with Vasilylomachenko. Bob Arum despises you because you and Teofimo Lopez colluded and tried to get the most money out of the bag and try not to pay Bob Arum, try not to get him the biggest money. And Bob Arum was not willing to put up big money to fight Teofimo Lopez versus George Kambosos because this wasn't a big money fight, because George Kambosos was looking at the mandatory. So it looks like George Kambosos Jr. could be potentially fighting Vasilylomachenko at Winburn Stadium in Australia. It's a famous stadium. I don't know Australian like that, but it seems to be a famous stadium. This is going to determine if how much money Bob Arum is going to put up Devin Haney is still on the table for the fight for undisputed. But if George Kambosos Jr. does fight Vasilylomachenko, or being confirmed one more time, according to sources, George Kambosos seems to be taking the route of Vasilylomachenko. What is next for Devin Haney? I don't know what's next for Devin Haney. Obviously, Devin Haney's got to fight a guy that's A- or B+ guy to stay busy, so he can get ready for if George Kambosos Jr. is a man to fight this guy. And it makes absolutely no sense. Like I said before, cowards like him ruin the sport of boxing. He's doing the same thing that Teofimo Lopez is doing. So I had to come up with a prediction, right? I do not think that George Kambosos Jr. is going to fight Devin Haney. And here's why. George Kambosos Jr., right, is going to fight, let's say he does fight Vasilylomachenko, right? If he comes back to the States, whatever or not, he's going to be looking to make a deal with Ryan Garcia, because Ryan Garcia is fighting Mega Tago as a tune-up fight. So George Kambosos Jr. Promoter and manager Lou DeBellas is already interested in a Ryan Garcia fight, because he already exposed himself to Robert Garcia instead of calling Ryan Garcia promoter Robert Diaz. But I think that George Kambosos Jr. is not going to fight Devin Haney from the jump. This man is absolutely scared, and this is a disgrace. So with that being said, guys, I'm not going to keep this video too long. It looks like George Kambosos Jr. could be announcing his fight on June 5th against Lomachenko. Basically Lomachenko and not Devin Haney. This is what ruined the sport of boxing. Cowards like him, of a man not wanting to fight for legacy, which that came straight out your mouth. And it seems to me that you're fighting the man to beat the man that beated the man, and you're going back to beat the man that basically you just beat. Amazing. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. This is your boy King Jr. I'm out of here. Peace.